So I think I've got some room to grow, but I don't necessarily feel comfortable using my savings to grow the business. What options do I have to kind of get some funding?
Yeah. No, and it's smart to not, be, quick to just use all your savings, because, having something there for a rainy day is a really good idea. You never know what's going to happen. So I think that if you have decent amount of revenue coming in that you can cover half of your expenses, then you should be able to have enough data to do a forecast that kind of shows what you need to get to that point where you can sustain your budget every month. So you're not, making tons of money, but at least you can live. And if you can show that on a forecast, then you could go think about a bank loan, right?
Gotcha.
But you got to be able to show that revenue. Now, you already have revenue coming in, so you have some data that you could then say, okay, what does it take? How many more units do I have to sell every month to get to that point? And that's the data a bank loan officer is going to want to see. And you're not going saying it's an idea, I have nothing, right? You're going and you're going to show that you have something, you've been making revenue.
So I've known some people that have put up personal assets as collateral. Like I knew a guy that put his home up to get a loan to franchise a business. How do you feel about putting up personal assets to get approved for loans?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Well, there's some part of it that you're gonna have to do if you get a small business loan. They're gonna look at your credit and they're gonna look at your assets, and you're gonna have to give a personal guarantee. So some bit of that is already going to happen if you get a loan. But to actually put up the asset and sign the equity in your house is one step further.
I see.
And I think it's all a matter of, where your risk tolerance is. If your savings account is feeling bulky enough that if your business goes under and you have to do something with your house, your savings could step in, then that's kind of a sort of plan B that you don't want to have, but at least you have it.
Yeah.
But if you're going to risk something like your house, you really need to think through those scenarios of what happens if this business goes under, because you don't want to be homeless.
And could you file bankruptcy to avoid losing your house in that situation?
You can, but depending on how you've structured the loan and how you put some assets on the line, it all depends on that structure of the loan, right? If you actually, it's the same way that we all see in the movies or in the shows, they come and repo the car, right?
Yeah.
They're gonna take the assets they can. And if you put that asset specifically on the table, let's say your car, they're gonna take your car. So you have to think about what do you want to put on the table and how do you want to do it. Sometimes that's why people decide to open, another credit card. It feels less risky, but of course a credit card generally, and especially these days, is going to have a crazy high interest rate.
Right.
So at the end of the day, I think it all comes down to that risk tolerance. What are you willing to risk? And how sure are you that this is going to happen? If you look at sales teams will always have all their leads and what's happening in a pipeline, and a salesperson will say, this deal has 60% likelihood of coming through. This deal has 80%. And so a team manager can look, and based on the percentages, they can then report up and say, my team is likely to bring in this amount of money.
Yeah.
So if you have that, and the more you sell, the more you're better at estimating that percentage of this is 90% gonna come through, this is 10%. So where is that in terms of how you feel about your business? Where is that percentage? If you had to put that on the line, are you at 20% or are you at 95%?
How could someone in my position go about calculating those percentages? Obviously you don't have a ton of experience in executing deals like this, so what's a good starting place?
So I really do think it comes down to putting the numbers down. So where are you right now, right? So you have numbers, which is way better than a lot of people, because if you have nothing and you're starting from scratch, it's really hard and you have to just really guess and use like market research, and you're not going to be right. But if you have numbers, if you're running a side hustle, you can see some trends, so you can see what has the growth been, where is the pricing, where is my margin, and those trends, once you put them down, then you can apply some growth rates and see what happens that will allow you to feel better about saying, I'm 80% sure that I can make this happen, because you can see the delta once you put everything down. This is what I've done in the past, and here's how it trends if I grow 5%. Right. But if you have to get to where you need to go and you have to grow 200%, then maybe I would say, the likelihood is at like 10%. But if you have to grow like 2% or 5%, well then I think you can feel better about putting that likelihood at a higher percentage. But you got to put the numbers down, which I know is not people's favorite thing, but it does give you a sense of reality.
All right, well, I've got a lot to think about, but I think I've at least got a plan for now. I'm gonna go home, I'm gonna talk to my wife and really try to hash this out. But thank you for the conversation, thank you for the information.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be curious to see what she thinks, and let me know how it all goes.